Today we're talking about DIY skate spots, and specifically we're talking about how to make beer can coping. This stuff right here, it's super satisfying to grind, slide. I just love this stuff. So we're gonna dig in on how to make this at home for yourself. The first step is going to be picking up some beer cans. Step 2, basically you just got to drink whatever it is that you bought. If you bought beer, drink all your beer. If you bought water, drink all your water. If you want to do this project all in one day, maybe have a friend that can come and help you drink some. So we're at Chicano Park. I figured what better place than to chug a bunch of waters so we can make this video. Now step 3 is once you have all your empty water cans or your beer cans, basically we need to take this aluminum top off, and you could do that with a bottle opener. Never done it, but I'm going to attempt to do so right now. This bottle opener is not working for me. I thought I can get it all off with the bottle opener. Maybe the bottle opener that you have at home will work, so I'm going to have to figure out some MacGyver to get these bottle caps off, or canned caps off. So I think this knife is doing the trick. The one thing I noticed though is I'm kind of squishing the can when I'm taking this off. You definitely want to do this really slow. You don't want to cut yourself. Do it, with caution. Don't be rushing through this process. It's pretty important that you keep your fingers intact. It's really important you keep the shape of the can. So however you get these bottle caps off, hopefully I find a better way. But this way it's starting to work. I think the one tip that I would say is try not to squish the can when you're getting the aluminum tops off. I'm on the last can. Something I noticed, in a little tip for when you're cutting the tops off, if you get right into the seam and kind of like follow the seam along the can, it really does help, and you don't get as jagged edges. That's what I've noticed over the course of about the last 12 that I've opened, is going along the seam keeps it just a much smoother cut. And that's pretty much what it looks like once you get the top off. The next step is basically filling these bad boys with some concrete. And the fun stuff begins. We're going to start mixing some concrete and simply fill our cans, as well as put the rebar in there when we're filling it with the concrete. And then we're going to use my little massage gun to vibrate it to get all the honeycombs out of that. So this process is going to be quite enjoyable. I've never done this, so we're going to see how it goes as we do it. Been about 10 hours since we originally poured our coping, so now we're moving on to step number 7, which is essentially peeling off all of our forms and getting down to the coping. I've never done this before. I've never really peeled off cans or made beer can coping like this, so it's going to be a little bit of a trial and error to figure out how you actually go about ripping the forms off. Now it is a bit of a waiting game. Next step is basically just have all of our beer cans, now that they're taken out of the aluminum, to just cure in the water. Alright, so I let our coping soak in water for 9 days, the water curing process. Time to pull them out. Super excited to see how hard these bad boys are and how smooth they are. The idea with water curing is that it really slows down the curing process, and it makes your concrete a lot stronger. So it's kind of like tea. When you first dump it into your hot water, it's brewing, but over time it brews and gets stronger and stronger. So after 9 days, that's basically the most strength you're going to get out of your concrete in the water curing process. So like I said, it's been 9 days. Stoked to pull these bad boys out and really check them out. They look smooth. And then next we're going to install them. I'm super excited. Take a couple learnings for sure. When I was opening these cans and I was getting the aluminum can off and I was ripping it off, I could definitely see where I scratched into the fresh concrete on some of them. It's definitely a lesson to be learned. Don't do that if you're doing this. Be careful with breaking into it. I think I could have waited to pilling the cans a little bit longer than I did. Got some rebar in some of them, no rebar in others. So when we install it, I'll just spread the rebar versions out and then keep the ones that don't have rebar in between, try to submerge them together. So yeah, some of them you can see I definitely pulled it too early, but altogether so far I'm pretty excited. Some really good pieces. There's only one maybe not usable. It's time to find a spot to install these bad boys. So before we go and install this coping on a ditch spot that I'm super excited to install it on, we're going to prep everything up. I'm gonna grab some mortar, my broom, my shovel, gonna prepare some water and just get everything really ready to install this. But I did want to talk about some things before we go and install this coping. One thing is you definitely want to get in some clothes that you're willing to destroy, because we're gonna be mixing concrete today. You're gonna get messy. Don't be wearing anything that you want to keep nice. With that said, there's 3 different examples I kind of wanted to quickly go over before we go and install and just explain some of my flaws and some of my learnings, so that next time I can improve them and some you guys can take away from my experience. So this one, I'm just gonna go and show you. It got mangled, didn't even make it into the water curing process. I never water cured this. Basically, when I took it out of the can, it wasn't dried enough. You know, we don't want this cured. Obviously, the whole point of water curing is that we make it 50% stronger than it was if we didn't water cure it. You definitely need to walk that line of making sure your concrete is nice and solid before you pull it and you start water curing it. This is a good example of pulling it too soon. Yeah, it's a bag. Didn't even make it into the water curing process. Now this is one that I put the rebar in, and this one did get really close, but I did pull it too early. You can see there's a little bit of chunk around the edge. This is an example of probably one of the best ones. It's really smooth. Everything about it is great. The only flaw, I think, in the very best ones that I made is that I have this little line right here, but luckily I can cover that. When we install it, I'll show you how. This is gonna go down in the mortar, so we'll have that nice, flat, fresh facing side where all the coping, or where all the truck is gonna be grinding. So yeah, one flaw is when you're opening your cans, just try to take your time, try not to cut into the actual concrete. If you do, it's not a big deal. Now let's go install this coping on the ditch spot that I'm super excited to go install it on. So originally I wanted to install this coping at a previous ditch that I built a bunch of DIY spots at. Super hyped to see Milton and a bunch of other people skating. But when I went there, I just realized it was so trash and it was just dirty and messed up, and I don't know, I just got demotivated. So with a little bit of sleuthing, I remembered this spine/hip spot that was nearby. So I decided to make a little bit of a pivot plan, and we're gonna install the coping actually here on this spot. Super hyped because I didn't really think about this until a couple minutes ago. There's this cool spine part, and then there's a top part. We're gonna line it up on the top part of the hip, and basically it looks like someone did try to add some transition on the bottom of the bank. They actually made it worse, but that's okay. That's part of like learning how to DIY spots. So I'll probably end up taking that out after we install this coping. But the idea is basically we're gonna line up all of our beer can coping at the top, kind of see how much space it takes. And then from there, we're just gonna start mixing the mortar, throw some mortar down on the bank, and then start setting down our beer can coping. I'm gonna space it out about a finger in between each beer can coping, and then you're just gonna fill all the little holes, all the little crevices. Just adding on to this drainage ditch. Basically making a little skate spot.
Making a what?
Making a skateboard spot in this ditch.
Who owns that drainage ditch?
Caltrans. Alright, I'll get out of here.
You parked over here?
Yeah. Parked on the side street right over here.
People are calling you in, that's why I'm here.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. Yeah. I'll pack my stuff and leave right now.
Alright, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
A sky behind the clouds. A sky behind the clouds. A sky behind.
Just found the lady that called the cops on me. Basically, the cop said someone had been calling them about what was going on, me building the skate spot, and they didn't like it, so that's why the cop came over. Kind of pulled out the freeway. There's a freeway right where I'm building, and was telling me, hey, someone's calling, you got to stop that state property. I let him know. I knew it was Caltrans property, so it kind of helps if you know what you're talking about. The young lady behind me is definitely the one that called the cops, and it's just funny. Not really affecting her, but you know, clearly on her Sunday afternoon, she does not want someone making it happen for themselves. Don't get distracted by the haters out there. We're gonna make it happen. Win some and you lose some. That lady, man, I don't get it. I'm not gonna make this video about the haters though. Gotta keep moving on. People are always gonna stop you doing from what you love, especially if they're not happy in their own lives. It's gonna be skatable at some point. Maybe I'm gonna have to send some friends. So with all the drama, I couldn't finish the spot, so I had to send in my night dwellers. They came and finished the spot in the middle of the night, pouring mortar on it. I wanted to show you guys that process, and who knows if it's really clean. We're back at the spot to check it out now. And now before I show you this, let me preface that they did all this in the middle of the dark. There was no lights. I think there was a phone light maybe used, but that's it. So it's not perfect. We're gonna sand off some of the rough edges. I'm gonna lacquer it up to get it grinding, and then we're gonna come back later in about like 8 to 9 hours after I'm done with work. It's not perfect, but this is DIY and this is making it happen. I'm actually really impressed on how this all turned out for doing it in the middle of the night. It's pretty good. There was literally a phone light used and that's it. So it's kind of just throw the concrete on there. Hopefully it works out, and it did. It's all right. I just lacquered it up. We're gonna come back. I'm gonna grab a rub brick and kind of really get some of that you know, concrete off that shouldn't be in certain spots. And then we may just add one more adhesive to each area to make sure that this spot lasts a nice long time. Back at the spot now, next day. It's been raining lately, daylight savings, got all these excuses. The weather is working against me this time of the year, but I just picked up some crack flex sealants from Lowe's. I never used this stuff, but basically we're gonna put this in between each block, in between each can. Basically make sure all our mortar and our blocks are adhering nice and solid, and this will just fill any of the cracks. This expands up to 1 inch. Pretty dope. So I don't know if we're gonna get a skate session in this video, unfortunately, because I've been working on this video for like a month and I don't want it to go on forever. I got a rub brick, so we're gonna rub brick this thing up, kind of clean up all those rough edges, hit it with the sealant, and then it'll be nice and ready for a skate session.
A sky behind the clouds. A sky. A sky.
So originally I was gonna finish the video right here, but then I decided, you know what, I'm gonna come back to the spot, take my lunch break instead of eating lunch, get a little skate session on this so I can show you guys that it is a skatable spot. I don't want to just make the spot and leave it, because in the last video where I made a quarter pipe, I didn't get to skate it in the same video. You guys were disappointed in that. So with that said, we're gonna get a couple licks. I only got like 15 minutes, then I gotta get back to work, so we'll see. And I am gonna get some lunch in. Don't worry, I'm taking care of myself, but I had to show you guys that it is skatable. Worst possible case scenario, landed the back blunt and my batteries died. I swear I did it. Alright guys, that's gonna wrap up this video. I gotta get back to work. Lunch break is over. Make sure you like this video if you enjoyed it. It really helps me support this channel. Subscribe if you're not already, because we're definitely gonna come back and get a real skate session. Catch my breath. We'll get a real skate session on this one. We can actually break it in and have time, not so pressured by work. But yeah, this is the first time I've ever done skate coping, so it just goes to prove you that anybody can make skate spots. Anybody can do the stuff that I'm doing. A lot of times I don't know what I'm doing. I just dive into it and I figure it out as I go. Hopefully this video is a little bit of an inspiration as a resource and kind of a guide to get you out there and doing it, whether it's a DIY skate spot or wherever the hell it is you're doing in life. Just make it happen for yourself. So subscribe if you're not already. We'll see you guys in the next one. Mash!